This episode of the MilSpouse Matters podcast is sponsored by SpouseLink. SpouseLink was created in 2012 by AFMA, the American Armed Forces Mutual Aid Association. The goal of SpouseLink is to support, inform, and inspire military spouses. Whether you're making a PCS move, looking for ways to support your military community, need career tips or help with budgeting, or preparing your kids for a new school year, you'll find it at SpouseLink. You can also connect with SpouseLink ambassadors, military spouses who are stationed across the country. They're here for you with in-person and virtual events to connect you to your local community. Follow ambassadors on your favorite social channel or tune into the podcast At Home with SpouseLink to find out what they're talking about. You can also read a variety of military family topics at SpouseLink's blog. Learn more at spouselink.org. Welcome to MilSpouse Matters, the podcast dedicated to encouraging military spouses. I'm Jen McDonald, and I was a military spouse for nearly 30 years until my husband's retirement. I'm also now the mom of an active duty son, a longtime writer for the military spouse world, and the author of the book, You Are Not Alone, Encouragement for the Heart of a Military Spouse. I created this podcast to bring you inspiration as you navigate your own military life, which can be amazing while also challenging. Whether you're dealing with a move, deployment, raising military kids, keeping your military marriage strong, or employment issues, we're going to talk about it. Military spouses, we're only stronger together. My goal is to bring you realistic hope and support for your own MilSpouse journey. Hey everybody, welcome to today's episode. Today, I'm being joined by Brunella Costagliola. Brunella is a ghostwriter, editor, speaker, journalist, and author. She has ghostwritten books that have been published by some of the most prominent and successful publishing companies in the country, such as HarperCollins, and have won prestigious awards, including Nonfiction Authors Association Gold Medal. Her clients include high-ranking military leaders, U.S. House of Representative members, highly decorated CIA officers, celebrities, and everyday heroes and heroines. Brunella is the co-founder of Milkid Mailkit, a Penpal program for military children. Her military retiree husband, Michael Gosselin, is the other co-founder. Milkid Mailkit aims to encourage and foster international friendship for military children through the art of letter writing. You can find out more about Brunella and what she offers at the Military Editor Agency, LLC, and Milkid Mailkit. The websites are www.themilitaryeditor.com and milkidmailkit.com. And we will link all the places on social media because they're on the Instagram, Facebook, and everywhere. In the show notes to find where you can connect with Brunella. So welcome, Brunella. That's quite a resume.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Oh, I'm excited to talk to you. And I thought before we jump into, your companies, have you share a little bit of your background and experience in military life?
I have to go back 15 years when I met my now husband. He was stationed in my hometown of Naples in southern Italy. And we met, we fell in love. A week after we met, actually, I introduced him to my mother, and I told her, this is the man I'm going to marry.
In a week?
In a week.
Oh, wow.
Yes, in a week. And I was only 22 years old. When he proposed a year and a half later, I said, yes, but. And I said, you have to wait for me to finish my degrees. I was then about to graduate with my bachelor's degree in English language and culture and Japanese language and culture.
Oh, wow.
I had plans of moving to the Netherlands to study at Leiden University, which is one of the most prestigious universities in Western Europe, where my fellow alumni are Nelson Mandela, Albert Einstein, Winston Churchill. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to finish my education. It was truly important to me. And he said yes, and he did all he could by accepting special assignments to stay in Europe. And actually, he from Naples moved to England, where then I joined him after I had graduated from Leiden University with 2 master's degrees.
Oh, wow.
And once in England, I gained a certificate to teach English as a second language from Cambridge University, and I started my teaching career. I thought that I had it all. I had an amazing, handsome husband, this high-power career. I was pregnant with our first baby. And the same day that I received an amazing job offer from the same school I had been teaching at, it was such an incredible contract. And I go home and I tell my husband, I have great news. And he looks at me and he says, I have news too. And I say, right. And I say, okay, you go first. And he tells me he has orders to go to Amsterdam in the Netherlands. And I tell him, but we can't go there. I just got out of there. I just moved to England. We have to stay in England. I just received this job offer. Anyway, to cut a long story short, that was my baptism into military life. Mission comes first. Yeah. So instead of accepting that amazing job offer, I declined it politely, cried because I thought my huge career as a teacher was over, and indeed moved back to the Netherlands after about 9 months with our son, who was barely 10 months old by that time. And I found myself without a job. And I thought, oh my goodness, I studied so hard. I got all the degrees I wanted to. I had this great career going. What do I do with myself now? And that's when I started looking inside. And my husband said, hey, you know what? While you figure it out, you love to write. Why don't you just write as a hobby? And I said, oh, yeah, I could do that. So what I did was, while my barely 1-year-old baby boy, who's now 9 years old, was sleeping, taking naps in the afternoon, those glorious days that are now gone, I started writing about things that interested me. And that was mainly American literature, American culture, African-American literature, culture, politics, and so forth. And one day, the right person happened to read my articles. And that's when I was hired for my very first, what I would call my big break into the ghostwriting field of the publishing industry. And that's when I ghost wrote for a wonderful lady who's unfortunately no longer with us. And that was about 9 or 10 years ago that I began my journey as a ghostwriter while navigating military life, which worked really well because having a freelance career that I could bring around with me everywhere the military sent us proved to be the right move.
Well, that is amazing. And I have to say, so my mother-in-law is from another country, and just the fact that you can write and communicate well enough to be published in another, not your native language, that is quite an accomplishment. And I have to give you props for that, because that is no small thing at all. Yes, that's awesome. Well, and you didn't realize that you would need a portable career, and
No, I did not. I thought I had it together.
Oh, well, you did. You did. And it sounds like you were flexible and, cried, which is, of course, I think that's the normal response. But then it's like you made something for yourself versus just sitting in that, which I have seen some spouses do. And that's never a good thing.
As we say in Southern Italy, and I know that American people here have a similar saying, when life gives you lemons, we don't make lemonade, we make limoncello, which is the alcoholic beverage.
So much better. I like that saying. I'm going to take that one. I like limoncello. That's too funny. That's a better attitude. See?
So I
like
limoncello.
The Italian mindset. Well, and then you started your own editor agency, if you wanted to talk about that a little bit.
Of course, yes. And well, I had been working in the publishing industry for quite a few years. And at the same time, I've been living and breathing the military life, of course, as a proud military spouse. And I noticed that within the military community, we just have the most amazing stories of resiliency, of so many other women and men like myself who married into the military, have the strength and the courage to reinvent themselves and start a whole new career, perhaps even as entrepreneurs. So I thought to myself, wow, these are incredible stories, not to mention, of course, the ones that the actual military members could tell of their time overseas in the Middle East, deployments and so forth. And I kept looking at the publishing industry and I thought to myself, why can't I find more books whose authors are military authors, whether they are military members or related to somebody in the military? Why can't I find them? It seemed to me that the publishing industry was not completely aware of the amazing stories that the military communities had to share. And so I saw that gap and I wanted to bridge that gap. I wanted to bring the military community to the publishing industry and also educate the military community on how the publishing industry works. Because for so many authors, so many military authors, I started understanding that they view the publishing industry either as I go through a traditional publisher and I get paid to be published, or the only alternative was I become a self-published author. Well, it's not just black and white. There are so many other publishing routes, and I wanted to educate my authors on which publishing route was the best one for them and their book, because in my opinion, choosing the right publishing route is just as important as having a very good story to tell. The success of a book relies a whole lot on which publishing route you choose. So just because you get paid from a traditional publisher with that advanced check to be a published author doesn't mean your book is going to be more successful than another author who went, for example, with an independent publisher or a small press or even a hybrid or self-published. So that's what I did. And that's when I decided to create the Military Editor Agency.
Oh, sing it, sister. I'm telling you, I had my first book published, we'll have to talk offline, by a small press, and I'm figuring out what to do with my second one, and all the things you said, as a writer, trying to figure out what is the best thing for this specific work. Where am I going to put it in the grand scheme of things? So that's so interesting to me. I find it fascinating. People that aren't writers might not find it as, but I think that's really cool because you're giving a voice to a community that may not know much about it. And you're right. Yeah. And so many of us come from other backgrounds. For instance, and I've said this before, I was a nurse and then kind of started delving into writing. And then all of a sudden, one of our moves, I was stuck in temporary lodging and thought, I'm going to take some courses. And if, let's see if we can make this work. And here we are, So,
wow. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I wonder if that's something we just have learned from military life. We're reinventing ourselves constantly anyway. So how is that any different with a career, or just what we're doing in life? And you can have several careers over the course of your life. I'm here to tell you, this is not the end for you. And I know that you have a new venture that I'm really dying to hear about it. So I would love for you to talk about what Milkid Military Kit Mailkit is and how it started.
Right. So, my goodness, the pandemic, it's when it started and how it started. We had just PCS'd from good old Minot, North Dakota.
So wait a minute. Was your husband Navy or
Air Force?
Oh, I did not realize that. Okay. Yep. Same. All right.
And after about 5 years, I never thought that they would come, to be honest with you. I thought, you know what, they just stationed here, forgot all about us, and that's where we're staying. But we made the most of it. It was such a beautiful duty station for us. We truly made the most of it.
The community up there is very different. We were in Grand Forks for 22 months.
So united and supportive.
It's almost like being overseas in some ways because it is so remote. Yeah. Everybody says, why not? Why not?
Yeah, exactly. So we had just moved from Minot to Syracuse in New York, where my husband had yet another special duty assignment. I told him that if he ever were to write a book about his military career, he should title it My Special Duty Career because it was one special duty after the other.
Oh, that's funny.
that's what made it interesting and
Yeah.
so adventurous. Anyway, we moved to New York. Everything is fine for the first few months. We moved in the summer of 2019. And then, of course, we started hearing about the pandemic and this coronavirus in December 2019. And then beginning 2020, it hit Italy very hard. And my whole family was there. My mother is a GP, a family doctor, and my sister is an anesthesiologist, and she is working and was working also at that time in the north of Italy in one of the hospitals that was first hit really badly. So I was following early on what this virus was all about. And then when I remember the day, March 13, 2020, the school that both of my children attended sent a message saying, we're switching to virtual, but we need a few weeks to gather everything that we need and set up this online virtual schooling program. Well, a few weeks turned into months, and we're about to hit, almost a year and a half of this pandemic. And what I discovered, like so many other military families, but also American families, is that the pandemic caused and brought a lot of isolation to our family. As being part of the military children already feel rather isolated because they do live a very different lifestyle than their civilian counterparts. So when school went virtual, even sports went virtual, and time spent outside playing carelessly and carefree with their peers was cut off because of worries of social distancing and whatnot. My children felt incredibly lonely. I saw their screen time go from something that my husband and I could control, so about 2 hours a day, to being an all-day thing, whether it was school, homework, sports, you name it.
Yeah.
They were always...
Everything was on there.
Yes, always online. Everything was screen time. And soon we noticed that they weren't their usual happy selves. They were not as engaged as they used to be with us. So I just wanted to give my children a sense of normalcy, but I couldn't with all the technology that they had to deal with every single day for many different purposes. So I started thinking, how can I give them a sense of normalcy? How can I break this isolation, this loneliness that they feel, and at the same time take them away from the screens? So I started thinking about and reminiscing really about my own childhood when I did not have a computer, when I did not have a phone, tablet, you name it. We just didn't have it. So how could I make friends, new friends? And that's when I thought of one of the many ways that I started really improving my English language skills was through a Penpal program set up by my high school.
Oh.
And I was corresponding with children in Europe who had the same goal to improve their English language skills. So I thought to myself, well, how amazing would it be if I were to help my children make new friends and feel less lonely, and also take them away from screens and back on what is now almost an obsolete piece of paper and a pen to write down their thoughts, to introduce themselves. So I spoke about it with my husband, and he immediately fell in love with the idea. We decided, okay, well, let's see how it works on our children. I got in touch with a few friends of mine who, of course, were also part of the military community, and shared the idea. They loved it as well and wanted their children, who were around the same age as my children, to participate. After this test, I noticed a complete change in my children. Their smiles were back. Their attitude had been positively improved. And one thing that it really made me smile was how eager they were to wait for the mailman to arrive. So
Oh,
they could run to the mailbox and look and see if they found that one letter from their new pen pals.
yeah.
And it was such a renewed sense of excitement. They
Yeah.
were happy. They were looking forward to something. And, something that also I was not expecting, and I should mention, is that my son, who's 9 years old, has been diagnosed with ADHD and dyslexia,
Hmm.
and also with dysgraphia. So I thought there's no way that he's going to sit down still and actually write down an entire letter. And instead, he proved me wrong. He was so focused. He wanted to make sure that the spelling was correct. He wanted to make sure that his handwriting was legible. And so he practiced and practiced. And
Oh,
there I had my child who I could not keep still, not even through bribes of extra snacks in the afternoon. And he was now doing it all on his own because he was excited. Because that's what I noticed is, for myself and also for my husband, we are in our mid to late 30s. Writing a letter is nothing new. We
yeah.
did it when we were children, and we grew up with handwritten letters from our parents. Perhaps that was even part of their love story, exchanging letters. And even our grandparents, how many military families whose grandparents were part of the military community
Hmm.
exchanged letters and so forth. So whereas for us, it was nothing new, for our children and for their generation, it's something excitingly new.
Yeah.
So they truly looked forward to writing letters and receiving their responses from their pen pals. And that's when I decided we need to expand this to the entire military community.
Hmm.
But I wanted to provide the military community with something extra special. And
Yeah.
that's when I called my dear friend Valerio Mazzoli, who is a world renowned illustrator. He has also worked with the Disney company and in Orlando, in Burbank, California, Tokyo, and also in
Hmm.
Paris, where he designed 11 attractions to include the Princess Palace. And I explained to him what my idea was. And I said, I need you to create exceptionally beautiful and unique stationery for military children.
And it's darling. It is just darling.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And yeah, he was incredibly happy to hear the news, and he jumped on it. We started thinking, okay, what can we truly add to these illustrations to make sure that we embrace the military community? So first and foremost, one of the things that I had him add to every illustration was the dandelion, the symbol per excellence of
Yes.
military children. And something else, though, that I wanted to highlight was the incredibly beautiful diversity of the military community. Here I am, for example, from southern Italy. So we are a bicultural, bilingual family.
Hmm.
And just like our family, so many others, families have family members who come from another country who perhaps English is not their first language. But besides that, we wanted to be inclusive of every every creed, every culture, and really highlight the beauty of diversity.
Hmm. I love that.
Thank you.
Like I said, the stationery is just beautiful. You can see samples of it on their website. But so basically, what if somebody was wanting to connect their child? So they get a pen pal? Do they sign up for the kit for stationery? Can you tell us more details about that? Like what a listener can expect if they decide to connect with this?
Of course. So we wanted to be really aware of the different budgets that we could offer to our military community, which is the reason why we've created a few different options. The first one, which is less than $10, it's a one-time fee. you sign up your child and you choose to not receive any stationery, but you do receive pen pal contacts. Now, the way we match our pen pals, first and foremost, we have our own children signed up to this program. So safety is our number one priority.
I was about to ask about that. Yeah. How do you vet who's signing up for it, for sure?
Exactly. So we do have safety measures in place. And because once again, we have our own children signed up to this program. Then what we do is we try to match pen pals not only according to age, but also and especially according to interests. So for example, my son, he's incredibly in love with anything that has to do with outer space, in particular black holes. And he was so fascinated and so happy to find a pen pal who shared the same interest. And my daughter, on the other hand, she's only 6 years old and she loves drawing. So she was excited to draw and write a few sentences to her pen pal who loved Disney princesses and dinosaurs just as much as she did.
Sounds like my granddaughter who's 5. She's into dinosaurs, Minecraft, and My Little Pony. Yep. So it's a good mix. I may have to see and she's a military kid, so I may have to sign her up for this. She'd probably love it.
Yeah. And then, of course, so we have the basic package that we offer, as I said, without stationery, but just in case people are interested in simply receiving pen pal contacts.
Yeah.
We also go through several other options, with the final one being you get several stationery pieces which are unique, and envelopes, even a pen that has 4 different colors. I know my children were extremely excited about the multicolor pen.
Yeah.
And also a box, along with the list of pen pals. So you have everything as a parent also, because I thought, well, how can I make it quite easy on the parents to be able to keep up with the pen pal program? And I thought, let me just create an entire option that has absolutely everything that a parent might need to help their children start with the pen pal program. And we've also included a few stamps, for example, in this one package. So it's everything you need in one box there. It's a one-time fee to sign up. And then you have, hopefully, the ability to create a lifelong friendship.
Oh, that's so cool. I really love this idea. And you said it's not launching until November. So yeah, we will keep listeners updated so you know when you can go sign up for it.
Yes, sign up is actually free and available now on our website. So people can certainly sign up. At the moment, we're soon going to have a pre-order page where you can secure your box or your amount of stationery and envelopes and so forth. The reason why we created this program was to offer military children a way to connect to one another, a way to learn from one another, perhaps about different cultures, about different holiday traditions, about different languages, but even different duty stations. So, what if we now live in the States? What if we are going to PCS to Japan? For the military member and the military spouse, we do have certain programs that offer us the opportunity to learn about the next duty station before we get there. But what about the children? So we wanted to give military children a way to learn about perhaps even other duty stations from children who have already been stationed there. So for example, if they were to go to Italy, I know that my children will be able to let them know which one is the best gelato shop to go to.
Yeah. Well, they're all good, I think.
I know.
Oh, I love that, because it's not just connecting, but just reviving that lost art of letter writing.
Yeah.
But then possibly even making future connections, because who knows, their paths could cross one day, or they could, decide to do a meetup or something like that if they are writing long term. And I was wondering, coming up next for Milkid Mailkit, like, would you do any kind of meetup, or is that like far off in the future and you're just, I just was wondering what's next?
hopefully once the pandemic is over and truly under control all over the world, then yes, we would love nothing more. But in November, we're going to virtually launch the product. And we chose November because it's the month of military families. And while this is a program and a product catering to military children, of course, the entire family must be involved.
Right.
And we just thought, what better way to celebrate than to give our contribution to military families.
Oh, and let me know when that's happening, and we'll definitely share it with our listeners too, so they can be part of that, because it sounds really fun and just a really cool thing for kids. It seems, it's almost like it's a simple thing, but it has so much potential to really have an impact. And I love that.
Thank you.
Well, I just love what you're doing, and your husband and your artist, which I know I'm not even trying to say his name. But is there anything else you wanted to share before we close?
We just want to keep our military children engaged in the art of letter writing, and we want them to celebrate diversity and welcome inclusivity in the military community through Milkid Mailkit.
I think that will be amazing. And I love that mission.
Thank you.
And yes, thank you so much for joining me today, Brunella. And I'm sure we will hear from you again in the future. I have a feeling. Keep us posted and updated.
Will do.
Okay. Well, and listeners, remember that you can find Brunella at the Military Editor Agency and at Milkid Mailkit. And like I said, we will share all the links in the show notes for you to connect. And if you would like to sign your kids up for Penpal, that is happening right now, and we will point you in the right direction. So thanks again, Brunella, for joining me today.
Thank you. My pleasure.
All right. Bye-bye, everybody, and have a great week. Thanks for listening to the MilSpouse Matters podcast. Connect with me at milspousematters.com or on social media as @MilSpouseMatters. You can find my book, You Are Not Alone, Encouragement for the Heart of a Military Spouse, on Amazon and other booksellers. Love the show? Please leave a 5-star review in whatever podcast player you're listening, and then share it with someone else who could use it too. Until next time, have a great week.